Good afternoon, guys. Hope everyone is doing well. This video, I want to talk about Jehovah's Witnesses and their definition of the word soon. Now, when you have a friend texting you or calling you saying, hey, I'm going to be over right, I'll be right there. I'll be there soon, shortly. You're thinking an hour or less, right? When someone says, I'll be there soon, I'll see you shortly, you're thinking an hour or less, maybe a few hours, right? But when it comes to the Jehovah's Witnesses, they hear words like, the end is right around the corner. Any day now, we're going to be in paradise soon. Now, 5 years ago, one of the governing body leaders of Jehovah's Witnesses, Stephen Lett, he said that we are now living in the final parts of the last days. And he said this because the Jehovah's Witness cult, after all, it is a fear-mongering cult. That's why there are 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses scared to do their research, because the governing body leaders, they do a damn good job at deceiving their members not to look at any material outside of jw.org, right? But 5 years ago, Stephen Lett said, we are now living in the final parts of the last days. That was back in 2020 during COVID, right? But the Bible says, Matthew 24:36 says, no one knows the hour when the end is going to come. No one knows. Me personally, I'm a little skeptical with the Bible, because at the end of the day, we really don't know how accurate the Bible is at the end of the day. I wasn't there when it was written. The Bible is supposedly inspired by God, but who really knows, right? Who knows? But if you are a Jehovah's Witness watching this, the Bible is supposed to be everything. So going back to Matthew 24:36 says, no one knows the hour. Not even the Son. Not even Jesus knows the hour when this system is supposedly going to come to an end, right? Supposedly. So if no one knows, if Matthew 24:36 says no one knows, how is it that a governing body leader like Stephen Lett can say we are living in the final parts? If not even Jesus knows, how can a governing body leader that's not even inspired by God, how can he know that we are in the final parts? You see, if you are a Jehovah's Witness watching this, these are the questions that you need to start asking yourselves. Because a lot of times when I was a Jehovah's Witness, all I did was listen and obeyed. And little did I know that my life was passing me by. So once again, what is the definition of the word soon to a Jehovah's Witness? Jehovah's Witnesses have been talking about this new world. They have been preaching and talking about this new world, this paradise, for decades. Since the early 1900s, for well over 100 years, they have been talking about paradise any day now, right around the corner. It's soon. We're going to be there shortly. But meanwhile, you have Jehovah's Witnesses right here and right now in the year 2025 talking about their parents were faithful witnesses. Their grandparents were faithful witnesses. Some people even had their great-grandparents that died as a faithful witness to the organization. And yet, all along, their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, they all have been lying to themselves, convincing themselves that in their lifetime that they was going to witness the Great Tribulation and make it into paradise. And year after year, decade after decade, generation after generation, we have people saying to themselves and to others, wow, I thought I was going to make it to paradise. It looks like I am now going to be in Jehovah's memory. Huh? Say what? I thought paradise was right around the corner. I thought the end was near. I thought we was living in the last days. If we're living in the last days, how is it that people have grandparents in this religion? How is it that decades, generations have passed on if the end is right around the corner? And a time has to come where people start to say to themselves, you know what? I understand that my mother, my father, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, I understand that they have been faithful witnesses, patiently waiting. But should I die waiting for this paradise that they've been speaking about for well over 100 years? Should I pass away patiently waiting, pleasing my family by waiting for this paradise when they've been speaking about the end of times for so long? And I ask you, if you're a Jehovah's Witness that's boldly watching this video, how much longer are you going to continue to wait for a lie? See, a Jehovah's Witness would say, this is not a lie. Paradise is coming. Okay, we played this game before. Your parents have played this game before. Your grandparents have played this game before. So you could lie to yourself all you want and convince yourself that the end is right around the corner. And you know what's sad? You have to say that as a witness. I said that as a witness. Little did I know the end was not right. The end was not right around the corner. It wasn't. I will never forget when I was a 5-year-old kid. My mom was in her 20s, reading me the My Book of Bible Stories. I remember that, right? The yellow My Book of Bible Stories. Talking about any day now, Jerron, you're going to be in paradise. Riding elephants and feeding hyenas. My mom said that when I was 5 years old. Over 30 years later, paradise is nowhere to be found. So I ask you, Jehovah's Witnesses, if you're watching this video, what is your definition of the word soon? I'm tired of hearing stories of people sacrificing their entire life, putting their dreams on pause, on hold. Nah, I'm not gonna get a good career. The end is right around the corner. I'm not gonna get a college degree. Why would I need a college degree if paradise is gonna be here any day now? How many times do Jehovah's Witnesses need to continue to lie to themselves? Day in and day out, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, generation after generation. It's like Jehovah's Witnesses, they're so eager to devote their entire life to this pipe dream, this paradise pipe dream, that, like I said plenty of times in my videos, every Jehovah's Witness knows. They know damn well in their heart that paradise should have been here. If you are a Jehovah's Witness watching this video, you know that. You could lie to yourself. You could say, oh, Jehovah, a day to Jehovah is 1,000 years to humans. That's why Jehovah is prolonging paradise. And I would say to you, why would a loving God, if he knows that you are patiently waiting for paradise, if he knows that you are devoting your entire life to this organization, why would he have you born and raised in this organization, and then you eventually grow old and die waiting for this paradise? Why would a loving God do that why would he do that to millions of people? We're not talking about hundreds or thousands. We're talking about millions of people since the beginning of this organization. Since the very beginning of the Jehovah's Witness organization, people have been born, raised, they grew old and eventually died waiting for this paradise. So when witnesses say, oh, 1,000 years to us is only one day to Jehovah, and he's prolonging, he's waiting for the right time. When is the right time? So a loving God, he's allowing millions of people to be born and raised and eventually grow old and die waiting for this paradise. Jehovah's Witnesses, how soon you keep saying the end is right around the corner. That's something you have to say. Psychologically, you have to say that to convince yourself that, oh shit, I wasted my entire life in this religion. So therefore you say to yourself, paradise is right around the corner. It's easier to believe a lie than to dwell on the fact that there's a possibility that I could have wasted years, I could have wasted decades in this false religion. No one wants to come to that conclusion that they wasted their entire life believing in a lie. So instead, what do Jehovah's Witnesses do? They have a blind eye, excuse me, they have a blind eye, and they continue to lie to themselves. They continue to run on that hamster wheel, going to the meetings, going out in service, preparing for meetings, coming at the meetings. They do this until they grow old and die. And meanwhile, all along, they keep convincing themselves the end is near. Paradise is right around the corner. It shouldn't be, if paradise was right around the corner, there would not be, like I said, there would not be parents, grandparents, great-grandparents who devoted their life waiting. That obviously tells you that the end is not right around the corner. Because if the end is right around the corner, generations and decades would not pass. So how soon is soon to Jehovah's Witnesses? Stephen Lett said 5 years ago, we are living in the final parts. But keep in mind that scripture that I told you guys in the beginning of this video, Matthew 24:36. Sorry, it's either 36 or 38. But no one knows the hour. Not even Jesus. Not even God's Son. No one knows the final hours. So how can a governing body leader who's not even inspired by God, once again, these men are not even inspired by God, how can he say that we are living in the final parts if not even Jesus knows? You see, Jehovah's Witnesses, they're so used to doing things in autopilot mode. And even when they go to the conventions and assemblies, right? A Jehovah's Witness would say, we are living in the final parts. We know this because the governing body leaders are giving us food at the proper time. A Jehovah's Witness would say that. And they're so eager to go to their assemblies, their conventions. But let me ask you this. If you're a Jehovah's Witness watching this video, you would say that the governing body leaders are giving you guys food at the proper time. You would say this, right? Can you recall on the top of your head, without looking at your notes, can you recall 5 key points from last year's convention or assembly? If they're supposedly giving you food at the proper time, can you recall 5 key notes, 5 key points from 2024's either the convention or the assembly? Can you recall 5 points from the top of your head without looking at your notes? Most witnesses can't do that. Can you recall 3 key points from 2023's convention or assembly from the top of your head without looking at your notes? See, most witnesses, they can't recall what they learned last year's assembly or convention or the year before. But yet, they would be quick to say, oh, this is food at the proper time. How many of us can memorize a song from beginning to end? A song. But yeah, I promise you, the majority of Jehovah's Witnesses, they will not be able to remember 3 key points from last year's convention or assembly. If they're giving you food at the proper time, then how come it's not memorized? How come the majority of witnesses, they go to their conventions and assemblies every year, they get fed this quote unquote spiritual food at the proper time? They get fed this spiritual food at the proper time, but yet you can't even recall what you learned last year. So obviously this food is not all that nourishing spiritually. This spiritual food ain't all that nourishing if you can't remember it, but yet you could recall your favorite song, right? From beginning to end. You see, this is the autopilot nonsense I'm talking about. Jehovah's Witnesses, they run on autopilot. And while they are running on autopilot, while they're continuously going to the meetings, going out in service, they do this because they know they have to. It's an obligation. It's an obligation to go to the meetings. It's an obligation to go out in service. It's something you have to do. But while you're doing this, right? While you're going out in service, you're going to your meetings, you're slaving for this organization. But while you're doing this, little do you know, you are wasting your precious time. You are wasting your precious life on this planet. Because you're always waiting. You're always prolonging the things that you want to do. The life that you want to live. You're prolonging that for this paradise pipe dream that deep down inside, you know paradise should have been here. You already know that. And one of my childhood movies growing up, I used to watch Pinocchio. And Pinocchio, he was so stubborn. I'm talking about the 90s. I think it was either 80s or 90s. He was so stubborn. And that little cricket, Jiminy the cricket, he was Pinocchio's conscience, right? He said, in the movie, he said, let your conscience be your guide. Jehovah's Witnesses, they fail to listen to their conscience. And they do this because the governing body leaders encourage them not to. Don't listen to your conscience. Listen to us. Listen to the governing body leaders. And it's sad that when Jehovah's Witnesses do that, they listen to the governing body leaders. These same governing body leaders are telling them the end is right around the corner. Paradise is going to be here. Guess what? They've been saying this for well over 100 years. Governing body leaders have been dying, born and raised, dying. When one dies, another one pops up, and they spreading the same message. The end is right around the corner. And what happens? When a Jehovah's Witness hears that, they keep doing what they're doing without thinking critically, without saying to themselves, hold on. These leaders keep saying that paradise is right around the corner, but yet my parents, my grandparents died believing in this lie. So how soon is soon to a Jehovah's Witness? And like I said, why would a loving, almighty God, if he knows that there are faithful Jehovah's Witnesses out there who were born in this organization and they grow old, they're now in the 80s, 90s, and they eventually die off. Why would a loving God have millions of his servants die waiting for a paradise that every Jehovah's Witness knows paradise should have been here by now? No one should have to waste their life, their precious life, waiting for a pipe dream. I'm sorry, you shouldn't have to do it. I understand people have their entire communities, their family, their childhood friends. I understand that. And if you deviate, if you depart yourself, if you leave from this religion, if you walk away from this organization, 9 times out of 10, you will be shunned by your community, by your family and friends. And that's not easy. But you have to ask yourself, would I rather lose my community or would I rather lose myself? That's a rhetorical question for you guys. Would you rather lose your community by continuously waiting for this paradise, right? And let's say if you're in your 30s or 40s, in 50 years' time, if paradise don't come in 50 years, you're going to be in your 70s and 80s. And you're going to look back on your life. You're going to look back at your life. And you're going to realize that you sacrificed everything that you wanted to do because you wanted to have a community. A community of people who really do not love you. Jehovah's Witnesses love the idea of you. As long as you blindly believe, like they blindly believe, as long as you're ready to devote your entire life and patiently wait for this paradise that's never going to happen, then yes, you have your community. But I ask you, would you rather lose your community or would you rather lose yourself? When I did my research, I woke up, I realized paradise is never going to come because this is a man-made money-making organization. It's a money-making organization. Paradise is not coming. I had the option to either fake it and be a JW to keep my Jehovah's Witness family and friends, or to live my life as a free individual. Because I knew that, like, once I did my research, I knew that a day was going to come where I was going to perish, where I would not be here. And before that day comes, I want to live my life to the fullest. I said to myself, I'm not losing myself. I will lose my family. I will lose my Jehovah's Witness friends over losing myself. Because when you lose yourself, what do you have to live for? What do you have to live for if you lose yourself? Anyway, guys, if you're a Jehovah's Witness watching this video, please do not waste your precious life waiting for something that's never going to happen. I encourage you, do your research on this religion. Do your research. There's a reason why the governing body leaders are making videos encouraging Jehovah's Witnesses to not listen to former members. There's a reason. It's not because they have the truth. Because if they had the truth, the leaders would not care. If the governing body leaders knew that Jehovah's Witnesses had the truth, they would not care if Jehovah's Witnesses did their research or even spoke to former members. So please do your research. Life is way too precious and way too short. I love you guys. I'll see you guys on the next one.